Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 316. We record on September 3rd, 2014. I'm Ryan Schraub.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malventano.
It has been a busy week in the world of PC hardware. Some major releases have happened. And so we thought we'd talk about it. I mean, it's a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
It's late at night. Alan had a caffeinated drink and now he's all hopped up and acting weird and stuff. So, first things first, if you don't know, we record this live on Wednesdays at 10 p.m.? It's about now. 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, sometimes a little bit later. You know, sometimes people in the chat complain. But if you want to join us live, all you have to do is go to pcper.com/live. It's where we do all of our live streams at. And if you want to sign up for a little mailing list to let you know when we are going to stream live, you can go to pcper.com/subscribe. You get this little page, and all we do is ask your name and your email, and all we do is use this mailing list for sending out emails about that. That list continues to grow quite well, so we have a lot of stuff coming up in the month of September, including a visit that's already on the calendar from our friend Jacob from EVGA. Later in the month, he promises to have lots and lots of things to give away, so you'll want to be involved with
Mostly
that
advice.
live stream. Mostly advice, but that's really just as valuable as video cards, power supplies, or motherboards.
Exactly, and mice.
And mice.
SSDs.
They don't make SSDs, so they won't be giving those away, be my guess. Yet is clear. So we got a lot of stuff to get through, but let's jump into the first one. This will be quick. Corsair released another case. It's like they never stop releasing cases. This is the Graphite 380T. This is a mini ITX case. I mean, the last case you looked at was the Carbide Air 240. And that was a micro ATX case. It could obviously hold mini ITX as well, but it was micro ATX. And it was one that had like the two separate compartments. Very popular. The 540 is a very popular case we saw at QuakeCon. 240, I think, is a great product for a smaller thing. This is even smaller than that. You can tell by looking at it here.
But it's bigger than a bread box, right?
Bigger than a bread box, smaller than 240.
I mean, it's kind of beefy. For a small case.
It's pretty big. I'd say it's big for a mini ITX.
Yeah.
It
has
the thermonuclear
round,
device and Halo Reach.
It looks a little bit like it, yeah. Yeah, you can see that icon up there.
I mean, it has kind of roundness to it.
It has we'll get the joke out of the way early.
No, I mean, it has girth.
It has a slight resemblance to the DeWalt workstation charger radios.
Yes, in that it's almost identical.
Right, little black-yellow color scheme, but, you know.
Black and yellow.
I'm not going to sing.
What is going on?
You said black and yellow.
It's mini ITX, but it is a little bit bigger than some other mini ITX cases. It still has support for some cool features. Like up top, it's got a 3-speed fan controller. It's got USB 3. If you look at the back, you can kind of see how the tech layout works. You've got your motherboard that sits right here, and you can fit a full-size power supply. The one issue with the power supply is if you have a longer power supply, it gets in the way of the 3.5-inch hard drive mounting bays. Both side doors are kind of this mesh finish with like a tinted plastic top, and they just kind of pop off and reveal the insides like that. And it does kind of act like an air filter as well. You can see in this picture that Ken put together a system. You've got the power supply that goes to about here. You've got an SSD. You can fit 2 SSDs in this corner. The 3.5-inch bay is supposed to go right where this mess of cables is, and because it's a modular power supply and because it needed some extra space for all these cables, we ended up just taking it out for convenience sake. But a lot of people that are using these cases will want to have 3.5-inch drives.
Yeah.
So
how many does it hold?
2. I think it's just a 2-bay.
Okay.
Anyway, but it would be really, really crowded with this power supply. This is a Seasonic power supply of some kind. I think it was a 750 Ken, 850, so one of those. I would recommend really looking for. Yeah, they're not super long, but I mean, in reality, you should be looking for a smaller 600-watt unit or something like that. This is the backside here. Again, you can see the power supply. This is a Corsair H80, which is a double-thick rad cooler that we were able to mount on these rails. You can tell based on the rail design, you can support a 240 on there if you want. There's the cooler installed. This little switch has what I refer to as a dome light. Inside the case, you can it's hard to see really, but there's like light shining down from the top of the case up here.
Not just from the MSI reactor.
Not just from the MSI reactor, but there is a bluish, whitish LED that shines straight down. It would be really cool as like a building work light. While you're kind of putting things in or running cables.
It's kind of dim, though.
It's a little dim, and the system has to be powered on.
Oh.
For it to work. So I wouldn't use it as a use this to build the system thing. So it's a neat little case. What's it run? About $139 or so? Yeah, $139 to $149. So it's a little bit on the steep side. It's got a pretty interesting, I would say maybe at least it's a very unique look and style to it. So if it's something you're interested in, check out the review. And we have a video that goes into more detail, and shows the case from a bunch of different angles and everything. It has, the most important part I forgot is it has a handle up top. So you can just pick that crap up and walk away with it. That'd be a good LAN machine, right? It's got a handle kind of built into it, into the structure of the case. So.
Like the Antec LAN boy.
Oh, God. Oh God, no!
Terrible case.
Oh, the worst. So that's it's the Graphite Corsair Graphite 380T. So check that out if you want. Next up, as it turns out, Intel released processors and platforms and some other stuff like that. Intel Haswell-E finally launches. It's been teased for a long time. We've been talking about it for a long time. Lots of rumors about specs. Pretty much all of those were 100% correct and accurate. I'm not going to spend too much time on the architecture. It is a Haswell processor with the graphics removed, and in its place, more cores and a different memory controller. Right. So we reviewed the 5960X, which is the highest end. It's the Extreme Edition part. It is an 8-core, 16-thread CPU. It is this die right here. 8 cores. You got 20 megs of L3 cache and a quad-channel DDR4 memory controller to go along
that memory
with it.
controller
Look at how much
is huge.
Well, yeah, it's quad channels.
Yeah, but I mean, still.
It takes up as much space as 4 cores.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Like half the die is just
Would you rather
either
have
cache
2
or memory.
channels of memory and 2 more cores?
Maybe.
Yes. Is my answer.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, this
Once you get that many cores, though,
stuff as
once you have that many cores, I think you want more than 2 channels of memory.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So the 5960X is the flagship part. It has a base clock speed of 3 gigahertz, top turbo of 3.5. So fairly low on the frequency range of things.
Yep.
But again, they're making up for it with core count.
Assuming what you're running is going to use more cores.
Yeah. So, but like the Core i7 5930K and the Core i7 5820K are both 6-core parts. These are new Haswell-E processors as well, but they only have 6 cores, 12 threads. Their clock speeds go higher, 3.5 to 3.7 or 3.3 to 3.6, depending on what you're looking for. And then
And the 5820 loses a bunch of PCIe Express
if you look at this
lanes.
table, like the spec table, it shows you like the difference from the top SKU to the second SKU is core count, 8 to 6. And the difference from the second SKU to the third SKU is PCI Express lanes, 40 to 28. So this is the first time they've ever actually done that on these E-class parts, the enthusiast class parts, where they're differentiating PCI Express lanes as one of the differentiators, I guess. They're using PCI Express lanes as one of the differentiators.
So I'm guessing the prices are the same as the ones we talked about last week with the leak.
Yeah,
stuff.
$999, $583, and $389.
So before this, how much did it cost for a 6-core part?
I guess $500 because you could. The Ivy Bridge E
$500.
was 6-core in the top, 6-core in the middle, and 4-core in the third. So you could get a 6-core for $583 or whatever it was, 500 and something, and now it's about the same. But
well, no, because you can get the lesser if you want to get the lesser 6-core. You could get a 6-core for cheaper now.
No, it's about the same.
400?
Oh no, you're right. All right, you get 6, but you limit on PCI Express.
Yeah. If you're willing to give up some of the PCI Express,
Yeah.
if you don't think you're going to do crazy, quad SLI with a PCIe SSD,
it's probably fine. Because even with 28, you can do 8884, which is 3-way SLI and a 4 lanes for something else, like a SSD or something.
Right.
Or if you just do 2 and 2, then you have room for even more stuff than that.
Like I would think that just like kind of average gamers, if they wanted to go that far to a system like this, they could probably get away with that bottom end SKU.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good, right? It's cheaper. Now you got 6 cores for cheaper.
And depending on where you buy it, like Micro Center
Yeah, they had sales.
Intel didn't send a 5820K. I bought one at Micro Center for $299.
Yeah.
$299.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's in-store only. You can't order online, right, Ken? You can't.
Correct.
Yeah, you have to go in-store only because they're trying to sell you motherboards and memory and all that kind of stuff. But I just walked in and said I want a processor. The guy said, all right, well, what motherboard do you want?
Should have told me. I would have went with you.
I said, I got motherboards.
I might have bought
He
one.
was like, what? It's like, no, trust me, I'm fine. I just need to.
Trust me. Just give a picture of the office. Here.
I'm good. Just let me take the processor. So, also along with the processor is a new chipset, the X99 chipset, new motherboards that go along with it. The motherboard itself isn't drastically different. The chipset itself's not drastically different. You've got more USB 3.0 ports. You didn't have any on X79, I don't think.
Maybe two. Maybe two.
I don't think you had any USB 3. You only had two SATA 6 gigabit per second ports.
That's true, too. Yeah, that kind of sucked.
right. So now you have 6 USB 3.0 ports, 8 USB 2s. So you have 14 total available to you.
And now you have 6 SATA 6 gigabit on the what was the old controller or the standard controller, right? That you can do RAID and stuff. And then on top of that, there's 4 more also going to an Intel controller, but not.
It's they essentially have 2 controllers on the same chip.
Yeah. You can't do like a 10 drive,
You cannot, which is
Intel
disappointing.
RAID. I mean, you could RAID them some other way, like software.
Because you could actually make an 8-disc AMD RAID on
Yeah.
their A80.
All 8 of theirs are.
Yeah, you can.
Can't do it on Intel. So big win for AMD there.
Big win on the chipset side.
Big win.
Also, the processor talks to the chipset through DMI 2.0.
Yeah, so it's still
interface, so it's still kind of limiting to everything.
That's like 2 gigabytes per second tops.
When I started to hear that they had when the specs leaked about 10 SATA ports,
Yeah.
I was like, great, let's get 10 of the same SSD. We're going to do this great thing where we RAID all of them together.
Hey, maybe you could defrag the SSDs at once on that RAID. See how
Watch how
fast it goes.
fast it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch how fast it defrags.
But in
DMI
reality,
kinda killed it.
if it's the same DMI link, it's
it's
going to
the
be
same.
no better than
Yeah.
yeah.
It's also interesting. Look at this table here. The new Haswell-E technically supports 5x8 PCI Express slots. So you can have 5 8 things of PCIe. I don't know how your motherboard
5-way
fits it,
SLI.
but you could theoretically put 5 GPUs in a system now.
That would be what, extended ATX motherboard?
Yeah, it would have to be.
XATX
Yeah,
or whatever that.
EATX.
EATX?
XL ATX, ATX XL. I don't know.
Something.
But you could technically put 5 GPUs in there. I don't know what you do with, if you're doing compute, that's interesting.
5 Titans.
You could put 5 Titan Blacks in there. Make sure you have a couple of power supplies to do it. But from a gaming perspective, even 3-way SLI is hard to do. 4-way SLI is way, way hard to do and barely supported by either party, in my opinion. 5's not even. It's not even. You can't enable it. So,
Yeah.
interesting spec. We'll see if maybe somebody does something in the future.
have a PhysX card.
This also supports Thunderbolt 2. Thunderbolt? Yeah. And of course, DDR4. Right? So now this is the first DDR4 processor and platform.
Yeah, but just think of the power savings of those 5 video cards by going to DDR4. So many watts saved.
Yeah,
So-
we're running at 1.2
Well, I mean, it does save you power.
volts instead of 1.4.
Yeah, but it saves you power. You do get some power.
Nobody
saving.
cares on this platform. Your
I-
processor's 140 watt TDP.
It's got to start
You
somewhere,
can
right?
get 5 GPUs on there for 1,000 watts.
Yeah.
So let me see. Let's look at something real quick. The processor looks a little bit different physically, but pin count is the same. It's a different socket. You can't plug these in.
Yeah.
They're not
Heat spreader looks a
compatible.
little different. It looks more like a server, like a Xeon kind of
Yeah,
heat
I
spreader.
don't really know.
Yeah.
It just.
A Xeon sitting next to it, I think.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
that
this-
is?
No, that's a 4960X. I can see the outline of my Sharpie marker. But I don't think... I think it's unique, but it's really just for retention and security mechanisms. DDR4 memory we got in from Corsair, some of their Vengeance, LPX, low-profile stuff. It looks just like memory.
Yep.
There's a little bit of a wave or a curve.
calls it like
at the bottom.
rocker memory.
Yeah, they could.
a rocker.
It's got
Good.
that on there. Yeah.
Rocker.
And this is the X99 Deluxe motherboard. Maury has a review of this ready. We're probably going to post this up tomorrow when the podcast goes live. We had enough stuff to talk about on the podcast.
That is such a pretty board.
It is a pretty board.
It's a really good looking product.
The pictures don't really do it justice.
Yeah, this is
You just-
the picture doesn't make it look as good as it actually does. It has tons of cool features in it, like vertically mounted M.2 slot.
Yep. With a little bracket you can put on if
Little
you want
bracket
to
for
just hold it.
security. It's got 12 SATA ports. Not all of them from the chipset.
Where's the
course.
CMOS battery?
It is vertically mounted right here.
Ah, see, smart.
I think he's gonna like it. I think
very
Maury's
smart.
gonna like this motherboard.
Unless you have a
Yeah, but where's
gigantic
the
cooler.
third CMOS button?
That is right here. This red
Oh,
button.
well,
right here.
that's a nice place for it.
Yeah.
Because on that MSI 970 board I'm doing,
Yeah.
the battery and the clear CMOS is right under the first PCIe slot. So
Awesome. Play your video card.
can't get to it if you have a video card.
EVG also sent over a micro ATX X99 board. And we haven't had a time to test it yet, but we got to use it. So you can fit.
Build something in it tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Ken's gonna put together maybe a system in that Air 240.
For
case.
those that want a couple of inches of motherboard left over after their RAM and CPU.
Yeah, I mean you can still get SLI graphics cards in here though.
Yeah, you could.
You could do SLI. Can you run Crossfire on EVGA motherboards? I guess you can, right?
I don't know. Jacob's in
Yeah.
the chat, so.
Oh,
we'll
Jacob,
find out.
answer in the chat. Somebody pay attention. Can you run Crossfire on EVGA motherboards? That seems like something that you guys
I'm
wouldn't
pretty sure.
do anything against. I see this big
Yes.
SLI logo.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
Thank you,
he
Jacob.
answers.
Good. But this is a pretty sweet looking board, and I love the idea of getting that much power into a small space. So
Yeah.
we'll probably put two 780 Ti's with this and a 5960X. Nah, we might build the 5820 out of this or something. Yeah.
Modest system.
A modest X99 platform. Overclocking, we'll spend more time on this in the future, but I was able to get 4.6 to 4.7 gigahertz on
That's
all
respectable.
8 cores,
Yeah.
right? Which is a 36% increase in performance in a benchmark like Cinebench over stock. So,
Do you play around with the 6-core part yet?
just barely.
I wonder how high that'll go.
Early results say lower frequency than this.
Oh.
But there's a lot of variance, right? I mean,
Yeah, it could just be,
I either have a really
Fitting.
good 5960X or a bad 5820K.
Yeah.
So you're talking 36% more performance when you overclock this in CPU, threaded CPU benchmarks
Yep.
versus stock out of the box. And it's already stupid fast. Couple of real quick benchmarks to show you. Memory bandwidth is important now that we're at DDR4. Where are we at here? There we go. We're pulling about 45 gigabytes per second, 45 to 47, which compared to Ivy Bridge E was like 32, and compared to current Haswell is about 17. So there is a difference there. Whether or not your application will actually feel that difference is up in the air.
Yeah. Depends on the application.
Yeah. Like this version of Handbrake, not super threaded. It's not really going over the 4 to 8 thread count.
Oh, really?
But the X264 benchmark clearly does. Right, you can see your frame rates. The 4790K is the Devil's Canyon.
Yep.
Very high frequency Haswell part, 4 gigahertz base versus 3 gigahertz base. So you're talking about 25% clock speed difference, but a 100% core count difference.
Yeah.
So,
And then
interesting to look at.
even if you're running a game that's at the number of cores, like you're still going to see a difference because everything that was running in the background in Windows is potentially
there are no
eating into
games that are
right?
really here. Look, multi GPU gaming performance. We tested 3 GTX 780 Ti cards.
Look at that.
We compared it on.
It's the meat stack.
That's like totally not
Yeah.
a fire hazard at all.
We compared that to a toaster oven and found that it cooked the toast much quicker.
Yeah.
We tested 3 780 Ti's on the 5960X with X99,
Yep.
a 3960X, which is a Sandy Bridge E with X79, and then a 4790K, which is Haswell, on a Z87 motherboard, because the Z87 is the only board we had that supported more than two-way
Those all
graphics.
look the same to me.
They all look pretty much the same in terms of your performance, and we tested it at 4K. It's really kind of how much bandwidth has to transfer across that PCI Express bus, et
So
cetera, et
I'm
cetera.
guessing none of those games are really CPU bound. Then.
Yeah, that's what you're looking at, right? And
Yeah.
and so the theory was what you might see is slightly less stutter or frame variance because the CPU is helping things along.
Sure.
But that wasn't really the case either.
Okay.
You can see here, and the problem, I
Yeah,
think
because
the
your
problem
percentile,
is
the percentile FPS is like
it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. And if you look at the frame variance, like in this case, you get a little tiny bit more frame variance on that black line, which is actually the Haswell-E.
Huh.
Right? I think we're within margins of error here. The issue is really not the CPU or the platform. This one actually has a little bit better performance on Haswell-E. This one may be a little bit more...
Grid 2?
Grid 2, Josh, what that might
Electric
be.
Boogaloo.
But
What?
the frame
I don't
variance
know.
is identical. I think what you're looking at more really are complications of 3-card SLI
Yeah.
as opposed to anything to do with the platform.
So maybe
itself.
if you are just a gamer, then this isn't like don't spend more money on your video cards to get another whatever as opposed to.
I still
switching
would
to
like
this
you to
platform.
do a 990 FX machine with 3 of those cards.
Okay, I did get a
And
990FX board in. How many PCI Express lanes do they have?
It's what, 40?
Okay, I got it. Yeah, I got.
So you can do 1688.
Okay, I can do that because we got that AMD platform in.
Oh, sweet.
So I can do that. Okay.
Cool.
So I would say my multi-GPU result is, like, if you have a Sandy Bridge E, you're not going to get much better performance and high resolution gaming from it. But the people that are interested in Haswell-E are just usually the kind of people that want to upgrade to have the best stuff.
Okay.
You know, and if you look at people who are maybe on, I don't know, something like way back in time, like a Core i7-920.
Hey, now.
You mean like me?
Like way back in time, like ancient historical processor technology. This is like a good upgrade point for you.
I built that system.
For somebody, not you. Just
I
for
built that
somebody.
system before I started working for PC Perspective.
I know. So that's how old it is.
Yeah,
Power
thanks for
consumption.
making me feel bad.
Yeah. Power consumption is actually pretty good, right? It's actually not much higher than the quad-core Devil's Canyon part.
Even though there's 2 more cores?
Yeah, at 25% less power, right? I mean, think about it. As you increase that voltage to higher clock speeds, you know, it is, what is it? Square difference?
Yeah.
As opposed to linear. So, interesting. Cost per dollar, not a winner. It is a $1,000 CPU.
Ouch.
So, you know.
But tell them what you get for that $1,000.
I just did 8 cores in
okay.
DDR4. So
16 threads.
look at this poor AMD
20
FX
megs of
6300.
cache.
Ken put these pictures up here. Ken took these pictures. For some reason, he picked the FX 6300 as
Well,
the,
we had to have like an AM3 in there.
You did.
It's
It just felt sad.
I couldn't find an 8-core.
We had a 9590 someplace probably.
Yeah.
But, it's a big chip. It's a good processor, but I mean, it's $1,000. The Extreme Edition parts are for very specific people. You know who you are. You're not going to be suddenly convinced that you need a $1,000 part.
No.
Workstation users, people who do tons of video work and then also do gaming, this is the type of platform for you. Motherboards will range from 200 and above. Memory kits will start at 240 and go up. Hopefully those will kind of price down.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing, right? Like, that's DDR4 that you're running on these games, and the game, again, same,
Doesn't surprise me
not that
one
much of
bit.
Yeah.
And DDR4 memory won't change very much at all.
Yeah.
Right?
But even
Regardless
like,
if it's
you know,
CPU test
the whole
or gaming.
quad channel, this, that, the other thing.
See, that's why I told you. I would pay
And,
2
yeah.
more cores for 2 less channels.
Yeah, you just buy
I
another.
mean, it depends on your workload. There are a lot of memory intense workloads.
Well, it looks like even for a gaming perspective, even 2 more cores, what's that going to do? Nothing.
Nothing.
Right? So.
But it would make my videos encode faster
Oh, sure.
while I'm gaming.
Well, then game on a Xeon.
Yeah, that's way more expensive.
Oh, there you
You're
go.
talking about $3,000 or $4,000 parts. So that's the Core i7-5960X. The full review is up there with all the benchmarks and everything, obviously at PCPro.com. But and I bought a 5820K. We're doing a review of that, finishing up some of the overclocking testing on it. And it's a much more reasonable purchase price to enter into this platform.
Yeah.
Right, and I still think it'll make a fine and dandy gaming platform for somebody that wants to do multi-GPU. So, any other thoughts or comments on Haswell-E before I
Do what?
It looks like it's a really nice product, but it's kind of expensive.
Thank you for your witty commentary.
I know. I'd like one, sure.
All right, let's talk to Josh now. I guess we have to. AMD FX processor refreshes. So they lowered the price of the 9590, and then they released the 8370 and the 8370E. So what is all this about?
You know, if you think back
I try
many
not to.
years ago, the 8350 was released, I believe, in November of 2012. It was kind of a big deal because it was the Vishera. It was better than the Bulldozer before it. They fixed a lot of power issues. They improved performance a little bit, per clock. And it was just a much better chip. But then Intel continued to release better and better chips throughout that time. And AMD kind of focused on the APUs. So we had at that time, the Trinity, which then went to Richland. And then finally we're on Kaveri. So we've had 3 fairly major refreshes in the APU. And in that time, we had 2 new product releases. The first one being the FX 6350, which was a higher clock, 6-core, or Form 3 module, whatever you want to talk about, and then the FX 9000 series, which were OEM only at first. They had to be sold in a system that had manufacturer-approved cooling in it.
Right.
I have
And they
no
were
idea.
like $850.
There was $899 at release, or it was near $1,000 at first, but then it
Holy Jesus.
kind of slowly dropped down. But yeah, it took a year before it could become what we would consider a little bit more affordable. And of course, the problem with that is it's a 220 watt part.
I compliment your
So-
photo, by the way. I love this. The processors on the box. It looks like water is actually in there, and it's on grass. Like maybe you're running it through the sprinkler. That would have been a good.
I
photo.
am. It's splendor in the grass.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
Love
yeah. Well, the lighting outside was so perfect that day.
It was.
And I
good.
didn't feel like setting up my stinking photography tent,
This
so I
works
just
great.
threw the shit on the grass.
just
and it
get
worked.
perfect lighting all the time.
Yeah, I live in Wyoming. Everything's perfect here.
Anyway, so what do you want to
Anyhow.
talk about first? The price drop or the new parts?
Well, let's talk about the new parts, because whenever we have seen refreshes in the past, think back kind of in the maybe not golden years, but certainly the bronze years, where we had the, what was it, Shanghai processor? Not Barcelona. I can never remember. But anyway, it was the first 45 nanometer Phenom 2s, the 920, 940, 960, 970, 980. Whenever we got a refresh, we got a bump in performance. And we didn't get a huge jump in power consumption because AMD still kind of had control of their fabs at that time.
It's a
And they would
positive
do
trend.
continual improvements over time that would improve yields, improve power, improve bins, all of these things. So they could release these new bins, new refreshes that were actually faster. Now we're kind of in a strange little place. AMD no longer has control of their fabs. It's now Global Foundries. Global Foundries is worried about Global Foundries. They have a product. They need to offer that product to their customers, but they can only do so many things in terms of customization, in terms of spending R&D resources on maybe just one of their clients. And so they're more constrained than they used to. So this 32 nanometer PD SOI process has kind of been static. Yes, they've made improvements in it, in that we have seen an improvement in yields, an improvement in bins, but there has been no improvement in the basic physics of transistor speed or power consumption on this particular node.
Damn
So
it,
unlike
physics.
what's that?
Damn it, physics.
Damn it. Because if you think in the Phenom 2 920, I believe, was the first processor there. It was a 3.2 gigahertz, and it was hitting 125 watts. And through the years, they improved that process over time. And next thing you know, we've got the Phenom 2 980 and also the Phenom 2 X6, 1090, which is 6-core. And these didn't break the bank in terms of TDPs. And now we've got this static 32 nanometer that when you want to increase performance, you're not only breaking the bank, but you're robbing it and you're demolishing it to the ground with the 220 watt TDP processor. So it was kind of exciting to hear. It's like, hey, there's a refresh coming down the road. I wonder what all it means.
So
Okay, well, the refresh part at the high end is the 8370. It shares the same exact base clock of 4 gigahertz with the 8350, which was available 2 years ago. This is a 125 watt part. The improvement on the 8370 is that the boost clock goes from 4.2 gigahertz to 4.3.
ooh, that's 100.
It is
Well, it's 1/10 of a gigahertz or 100 megahertz if my math works out.
something like that.
Okay,
But yeah,
that's the only difference.
It's kind of a small difference.
Okay.
Now, the positive of this is that it doesn't cost any less. It's $199, which was the same MSRP of the 8350. So when you're running single or dual thread applications, you more than likely will see that 4.3 gigahertz boost clock, and it will in fact run faster than the 8350. when you max out the modules in terms of like running 8-thread Cinebench, it's going to go down to 4.0, 4.1, depending on thermals.
Sure.
And it's not going to be any faster.
Right.
So it's like running to standstill. I'm happy that AMD has a refresh, that they have new products that they're able to get out.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of sad that they haven't been able to extend that. I mean, even if they'd have gone a base clock of 4.1 to 4.3 or 4.4, that may have been something to write about. You could see more tangible benefits from that. But instead, we've got the same 4 gigahertz base clock and then only a boost to 4.3, which 100 megahertz.
It's not always introduced. It's not always even a factor.
Yeah. It's you got 3 threads running, and
so what's the E variant? What's
the E variant? Now, AMD released what they call the E variant. This is a more aggressively bin chip that supposedly is more power efficient. The 8370E has a boost clock of the same 4.3 gigahertz. Now, to achieve the 95 watt TDP, they kind of had to adjust some of their base clocks, which goes down to 3.3 gigahertz.
Whoa, that's low.
Yeah, that is kind of low. And that is still 100 megahertz faster than the old 8230, which is good, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
But it performed slower in pretty much everything than the 8350 and whatever I threw at it. The only thing that was different was like Cinebench single thread, where the 4.3 gigahertz boost actually worked as advertised. Everything else, it was below the 8350, and this is a part that is it costs $199.99, same as the 8370.
Yeah, so if you look at the Cinebench results here, if we look at the 8370E versus the 8350, it's just slightly faster, right?
Yep.
But if you go to the multi-threaded result, it's slightly not faster.
Slower. So what is decent? I mean, I've been watching the clock speeds of this, and it does hit from in between 3.8 to 4 gigahertz when all 4 modules are loaded up. But it's the power circuitry and the algorithms that kind of say, hey, here's the TDP, we need to stay under it. I mean, it's constantly adjusting that, and it is going to be slower. And in my testing, and I know that not everyone has agreed with this, you did see about 10 watts of difference at the plug-in.
Gotcha.
Now, it could just be there's some differences between chip and chip. That I've got possibly a bad one. Also, I used the MSI 970 Gaming instead of the motherboard that AMD sent me, which was the Asrock 990 FX Killer, which has an M2 socket in there, by the way, slot.
All right. Okay.
But
the slocket, if you will.
Haven't heard that in a while. So probably I'll be testing this a little bit later on with a different motherboard to see if we can have a little bit better performance in terms of power consumption, because as it is, the E doesn't consume all that much less power.
Doesn't seem like a relevant thing.
I mean, save your $20 and just get an 8350.
So tell me about this price drop, though.
The price drops are pretty decent. 8350 again, it's a price drop at $20, so it's $179.99. So that means that when specials come around, we're going to see it for much less. The 8320 has gone down a little in price. The other release was the 8320E, which again is a 95 watt TDP part again as compared to the 8320, which is 125 watt. So it's at the same price, but you're 95 watt instead of 125. The biggest ones were the 9590 and the 9370. They went down in price significantly.
$229 for the AMD FX 9590.
If you've got your own liquid cooling system set up already, this is not a bad upgrade for you as long as your motherboard supports a 220 watt.
I should point out that's 80 watts more than the Haswell-E processor we just talked about.
You should point that out because it's...
That's okay, but they're only 8-core processors, so they're practically equivalent.
That's a 4770K more than the 5960X.
Yes. You know, and
Interesting
I
way of
don't want to
putting
hammer on AMD too much because, I mean, they're doing their best. They're doing good things in APUs. But AM3 Plus has not been updated worth the beans. Yeah, it's nice to have a refresh. It's good to have the price drop.
I want to see some more numbers with the 9590 at this price. We've got that processor and stuff here. Maybe we...
And it performs well. I mean,
Yeah.
When you've got all eight cores running at 4.7 gigahertz, it smokes through programs. It's
Literally.
just that single thread performance and gaming performance that Intel really has just wrapped up nicely, and plus the thermals. If you're doing any kind of video editing, photo editing, stuff that will utilize those 8 cores, it's a fast processor. But it is hot. And if you look at the wattage in that, power and overclocking page, can you see it?
Are you saying it draws more
Okay.
than 220?
Okay.
Hang
I'm
on.
gonna bring it. There you go. Here it is.
Show it to me.
Come on, Ken, show it to us.
330, and this is basic, 330.
This is almost 100 watts
watts.
more than the 8370.
And so that
That's a big
220 watt
load.
TDP is pretty damn accurate. I mean, it is pulling a lot of power, and the cooling system is going to work a little harder
A
to
little.
keep that. I mean, admittedly, the cooling system that AMD bundled with this,
Well, you don't get that for 229.
You're going to go
You don't
through
get
liquid
that for
nitrogen much
29.
quicker.
that's going to
Right.
be a $300 investment. It does keep it around 40 to 45 C under load, which is nice, and it's
Yeah.
not overly loud.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're paying at it from the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think we've always done that. I'm just glad that they're like price reasonable now.
They are
Let's-
exceptionally reasonable.
Let's talk about the 9590 more again later after either of us have done more CPU testing with it because I think it will be
Correct.
interesting parts. So
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you don't care about power, I mean, if you think about if you got a 100-watt light bulb going in your house all the time, that's the power difference. It's not.
I can't buy incandescents anymore, Josh. I'm not allowed. Government won't let me.
Well, if you have a horde of incandescent 100-watt
If I've been
bulbs,
storing them in closets.
It won't work.
yeah.
They don't
think
store
my
very
dad
well.
did
They
that.
die.
Oh well.
Sorry.
But anyway, wrapping this kind of up.
Yes, please.
It's nice that AMD is moving forward. It's bad that AM3 Plus has not gotten any significant updates. It would have been nice to have a 28 nanometer steamroller-based 8-core with plenty of L3 cache, as well as a chipset that supports things like PCIe 3.0, USB 3.0, and 8 SATA ports. But instead, we have no native USB 3.0. We got 6 SATA ports and PCIe 2.0. I mean, this chipset was introduced in 2010 as the 890 series. It just got rebranded.
But it says
in
990 on the box.
Yeah, but it was rebranded. It's the
they
same
don't do that to
silicon.
chipsets.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
well, let's
you know-
let's end our discussion of that processor then, or that refresh. It
Okay.
seems uninspired. Is that
It's
right
a little
terminology?
uninspired, but
Yeah.
you know what? At least they're doing something, and they're keeping their hat in the performance ring. And certainly with the 9590, I think that with the price cut is the most interesting part of this entire story.
Fair enough. Speaking of AMD unable to move forward, let's talk about the Radeon R9 285. Just kidding. This is actually, it's an okay part. It's a pretty good part. Actually, Josh thinks he was more excited about it than I was. But let's talk about it real quick. The R9 285 is a new GPU from AMD. This is not a rebrand.
Not
It
an
is
SSD?
It's not an SSD this time. No. We haven't moved on to the R9 SSD.
I thought it was a faster SSD.
No,
Sorry.
close.
All right.
Based on the pictures, I would think that that's not accurate.
Just think how fast that SSD would be if it was powered by that silicon.
Exactly. So much.
Yeah, but it's only got 2 gigs of storage, so it's really not going to help you much.
You're right.
It's really fast for a split second.
So 285 is a new piece of silicon. It is not a rebrand of Tahiti or anything like that. It is a new GPU called Tonga. It's still 28 nanometer GPU. Everything else remains the same. It's still based on GCN architecture, but it is a new design. And basically what it does is they sent over like a Sapphire card to use as reference. What it essentially does is it takes... Where's that picture? Here we go. It takes the 290 series and the 280 series as they currently exist, and it kind of mashes them together, and you get a new part called the 285. Now, the 285 performance is pretty much identical to that of the 280. If you look at it gaming performance-wise, it's a little bit faster in a couple of places, and it's a little bit slower in a couple of places.
So you're getting like the new features? Is that what the...
But you get the new features. You're getting you get AMD True Audio technology,
Okay.
right? You get Project
Because everybody
FreeSync
likes a little
support.
TNA.
Of course.
True audio.
FreeSync support
You get FreeSync support built into this GPU.
that you would have to buy this new GPU to get.
Well, or so like the 290 and 290X already support it.
Okay, yeah.
And the 260X technically does as well. But the 280s, 280X, 270, 270X did not. Now the 285 does. You get XDMA Crossfire support, which is the bridgeless Crossfire.
Right?
And you get an updated power tune, which, whatever.
Okay.
It's not
Whatever
as
that
interesting as they try to make it sound. But
And True Audio too, right?
yeah, True Audio. That's the first thing I said, I think. So now it wins some and it loses some benchmarks. If you look at this table, it has the same GPU core count, has the same stream processing count as the 280, 1792.
Yep.
It has a slightly lower rated clock speed, same texture units, same ROP. It has lower memory. It goes from 3 gigs to 2 gigs. And it has a smaller memory interface. It goes from a 384-bit memory interface to a 256-bit memory
This isn't
interface.
sounding like the same as the other card with more features.
And the memory clock goes up a little bit from 5 gigahertz to 5.5.
So is it a wash on the difference then?
The performance is pretty much a wash in my
Okay.
testing. But they have improved and tweaked the architecture in several key areas. You're actually getting, even though the clock speed is a little bit lower, you're actually rated at a higher teraflop theoretical peak.
Huh.
Because of these differences. Josh and I are kind of going through some of them. You've got improved 16-bit floating point and integer instructions. You've got better tessellation support. You're now doing 4x primitives on your geo shading.
Right. So how does all this translate into the actual like game?
It's about the same,
Oh,
right?
okay.
But you're saving it a little bit of TDP. I think the TDP difference is 10 watts, 200 to 190, but you're getting the extra features.
Oh, that's good.
And not only that, but you're getting that same performance with 2/3 of the memory speed.
Yeah, right. So your memory bandwidth is lower for sure.
But the clock rate is a little bit higher.
The clock rate's a little bit higher, but not enough to like the
Right,
memory
right, right.
bandwidth numbers aren't the same.
Yeah.
They're not equal. But because of the improvements in performance, they're able to get performance back up to that level.
That's cool.
And don't forget that they've knocked $30 off the price too, compared to the 280.
I disagree
least
with
at
that
launch.
statement. Yeah, well, at launch, right? And when did the 280 launch again?
I
Right
wasn't
after
yesterday,
Hawaii.
was it?
It was not this week.
No.
It was not last week. It's been a while. They also so they got rid of the memory bus width, and I think Josh, you can help me on this too. Like they increased transistor count from 4.3 to 5 billion, but the die size only goes from 352 to 359 millimeters squared.
Okay.
So they wanted to keep the die size about the same while adding a bunch of transistors.
Which they had to add for those extra features.
I think, and there are probably other changes involved in here. I know Scott at Tech Report thinks that there's a 384-bit memory bus hiding in there. I don't know if I think that's the case. There's definitely more stream processors hiding in there for another release down the road.
But they have 4 times the command processors.
Yeah,
And so you've got greater granularity all there. Primitives, double that. So you've got
Yep,
the
4x.
4 streamer engines that they kind of break the GCN cores into. And so, yeah, you're getting better tessellation, you're getting better granularity, and in between those command and execution processors, throwing data at these 4 different big units
Word.
that each contain 8 GCN cores.
compute units.
You're gaining a lot of efficiency there, and you're not expending
So
a whole lot of TDP.
My issue with that is the TDP difference is small. Like you're gaining efficiency, I guess, just based on architecturally, but at the end of the day, the whole card is about 10 watts less than the previous generation card. So what does that mean to somebody?
Well, it also means that the actual price of the board itself is going to be less. You need slightly less robust
Only
power.
they would pass that on.
The biggest thing is going to be how many layers on the PCB that you need, because you'll probably have like a 10 instead of
Yeah,
the 12,
maybe.
14 for a 384-bit bus.
But I imagine they're using the same boards for the first run, at least the first runs of 285s that they have for 280s. Maybe some tweaks, but
No,
you don't think so?
not with the 256 bus. No.
Okay.
Yeah, they changed the bus. There's going to be less.
I mean, spinning PCBs, and I was told this many, many years ago by 3DFX when they had, remember all their different designs for the 6000 series, Voodoo 5? They're like, yeah, we can spin out PCBs, no problem. That's relatively simple as compared to GPU design. And so putting out a new PCB to reflected updates in memory size as well as power, they can do that relatively quickly. Okay. It's just the cost of actually producing a higher layer package.
So the performance result is kind of interesting, right? So the 280 is going away. The R9 280 is end of life. What's available for sale is the end of it.
Yep.
If you find a good deal, buy it up. If you've got one and you were thinking about going to Crossfire, you need to do that now.
Okay.
So it will be gone, and now it will be the 285 against the rest of the competition. So the 280X is still out there. It's a higher performance card. And the GTX 760 is like the 239 to 259 product from NVIDIA.
Okay.
And
how do they compare?
The 285 is never slower than the 760 in my testing. It's sometimes even and sometimes faster.
Okay.
Right, so it's the better card over the GTX 760 for sure. But for example, like if you look at this result here, it's hard to see the black line. The black and blue line are basically identical here. That's the GTX 760 and the R9 285. But the orange line is the 280, the R9 280.
The older one.
And the old one. And the green line is the R9 290X or 280X. So that should be higher. But I expected the orange and the black lines to be a little bit closer together. If you look at a different game like BioShock, and this is kind of how it was presented by AMD, right? You got 280X, then 285, then 280, then 760, right? And I think more games do that than the other way around. Crysis 3 is one that has it about on par with the 760. But if you look at Metro Last Light, again, you see the 280X, the 285, the 280, and then the 760.
I mean, it's just different games highlighting different ways that one card is different than the other.
Games that are highly dependent on memory bandwidth are probably going to favor the 280 over the 285.
Yep.
Games that are GPU, very, very GPU dependent, like core dependent, are going to favor the 285 over the 280. So I don't think this is the hard part right in the conclusion. I don't think the 285 is a bad card in any fashion. It's a perfectly fine graphics card. It just, in my opinion, doesn't do anything better enough to warrant being really excited about.
Well, they're just replacing the old card with one that has the new features.
The problem is, you could before this launch, keep in mind the card vendors knew about the 285 coming out. You could find 280s for $219. Right, which is $30 less than the 285.
Well, I mean, okay, so how long has the new one been on the market?
Since Tuesday.
A day.
So just a day, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, give it like a couple of weeks. It might drop like $20.
Maybe, but I don't think so.
No?
No. And that's the thing is, like, this is just a part, in my opinion, this part is not being released because, hey, look at how much more performance there is or how much more efficient it is.
Yeah, it's the same.
It's the same product that they're like, oh crap, we've been promoting FreeSync, and the 280s don't support FreeSync.
Isn't that like one of their big mover, like, isn't that their price point?
I imagine the 280 is probably one of their biggest selling lines.
Yeah.
It probably is.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we need to make sure we have parts out there that we can claim it. If we launch FreeSync monitor with only the top two SKUs realistically supporting it,
then it's not FreeSync.
That's not a good idea. It's not a good idea, right? Like,
I still argue it's not. I still argue it's not called FreeSync because you have a lot of people that are going to have to update their video card to get supposed
in theory,
FreeSync.
right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a discussion for a different day. But they also launched a new Never Settle Space Edition that includes, like, you can pick Alien Isolation or some Star Citizen modules. I don't know. I think it is a good part. I just don't think it's like a great part.
I disagree with you.
What? Tell me why. Tell me why is it better than everything else that is already out there? Like, why is it better than the 280 that it's replacing?
Hey,
I argue that it's FreeSync support and like true audio if you care about that. But but at the end of the day, what else?
Hang on. They're building a new foundation with this because one of the things you failed to mention is the new color compression scheme, which allows it to get
that's how it can
really improve the performance with a smaller memory bus. You've got a smaller memory bus and you've got a cheaper card for manufacturers. And so they're more willing to do more interesting cooling, more interesting power solutions like ASUS with their DC2
Strix.
stuff. You have a extra 700,000 transistors.
700 million, but yes.
Yes, 700 million, which is not insignificant.
It
Wait,
is not?
is it right? Yeah.
4.3 billion, so yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And you're actually lowering TDP by 10 watts, even though you're adding
But you took out
15%.
50% of your memory bus and lowered clock speeds, albeit slightly, but you lowered clock speeds.
Yeah, but those two things as compared to another 700 million transistors. I mean, how many transistors did the GeForce 3 have?
I don't know, Josh.
62 million.
Okay.
So anyway, so you're adding a lot of GeForce 3s to this.
You are about 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that aside, you've got then XDMA, which fixes all of the issues that they've had with Crossfire. And I realized that, yes, they put some software in with the 14.1
Yeah, starting
that
at 14.1.
fixes Crossfire and multi-display.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a pretty tortuous software development cycle. Would you not agree?
It was, but it's done now.
Yeah, it's done. So XDMA, it gets rid of all of that. It makes any kind of development much simpler in the future because
It
you've
does,
got
yeah.
this high-speed
Yep.
communications protocol on the PCIe Express bus without having to go to the CPU.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big plus. True Audio, when you put all these things together, it makes a great foundation for products that will be coming down the line. They improved efficiency. They're able to do amazing things with 1/3 less bandwidth for memory,
They're laying
even though they
the-
did
I-
increase the speed.
the
ahead.
idea of it being a foundation layer, like I get it, but they're laying the foundation identically on top of the previous foundation that was there. They're not moving it. They're not saying, "Hey, look, and now we're going to make this 25% cheaper," right?
But they give the manufacturers with this design and how much less probably the chips cost, just because 28 nanometer is a mature process.
Same die size.
PCB board design, power design, it gives the manufacturers a lot more space to lower the prices over time for these products.
I don't know. I think you give too much credit to the card vendors.
My rose-colored lenses.
I think
or-
you give too much capability for the card vendors to actually change prices on their own, right? AMD and Nvidia control all of that, right?
control all the things.
They control all of the things, right? And the price drops happen because of rebates from the GPU vendor going to the card vendor. They don't happen because the card vendor goes, look what I can do. Most of the time. Maybe sometimes they do. Like I said, I don't think it's a bad part. I just am not...
You're not blown away.
I'm just not super excited about it. Like... Because
I think just from a
we've had all these features since last November, right? With Hawaii,
Yeah.
right? And it's taken them a long time to get here, and it's replacing a part that was launched in 2012, right?
Yeah.
Tahiti came out in 2012, maybe 2011. I think it was December 2011. Yeah.
I guess just considering where we're at with 28 nanometer and what they've been able to do with compressing the design and adding that many more transistors and that extra performance without breaking any kind of TDP barriers, I think that's a lot of interesting engineering.
Maybe.
And that's probably where I'm impressed, and I think that they can do more interesting things when they actually do jump to a lower process node in
I would
9
say
months a year.
that if they believe what you think, if they believe that what they have created is a truly interesting and unique product, then they need to present it better than they did with this. They almost didn't want to talk about those new architectural bits in Tonga. Like, they were embarrassed that they even had a new GPU or architectural changes at all. Like, the press call to Inside Baseball, the press call we had was like, oh yeah, and it's Tonga and there's some new stuff in there, but let me tell you about the Space Edition Never Settle bundle. And I was like, whoa. Like, literally, I hung up on the call and I called AMD again, or they called me back, and I said, why aren't you talking about the GPU? This is the important stuff. Tell me about this GPU. And they're like, well, there's some things, and there's this and this. And they were very uninterested and uninspired about why it was exciting. And it translated to me being, well, okay, fine. I'll just test it, and maybe it'll blow me away performance or power, and it didn't. So,
You know, one last piece of the puzzle. I didn't notice it if you had actually covered this, but did you run like Luxmark or a GPU?
Nope.
I think that would be really interesting.
okay. I mean, so what? I mean, if it performs better than what? Like 10%.
Well, I mean, then you can take a look and say, hey, you know what? When in things like, you know, just this GPU stuff,
Yeah.
you know, even though it's clocked lower, we're getting 15% more. We've got a third less bandwidth, but we're still getting 15% more performance out of what essentially is the same card. I mean, do you think AMD would be ecstatic if they could get 15% more performance out of their 8370 and losing 10 watts?
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Anyway, well, we'll see. I don't know. It's hard for me to be excited about it. But anyway, hey, we'll have more cards coming out soon. I believe we'll have 285X. We'll probably have like 275 and 275Xs. And I can either be equally unexcited and you can be equally blown away by what they are able to do in those places. So maybe a 295X. Oh, wait. 295X. Singular.
297X.
297. Yeah, there we go. That's good. All right, let's talk about another review that Alan posted today. This one should be much less controversial. The Western Digital My Passport wireless, mobile wireless Terabytes, it sucks. I'm going to say that now. Fight me.
I like it.
Damn it. Okay.
Controversy.
So this is a battery-powered, portable, Wi-Fi-enabled hard drive.
Yes, has 2x2 wireless N, 2.4 gigahertz. You can. They just updated the MyCloud app, Western Digital MyCloud app. So if you had that app already because you had some other MyCloud device, works with this, right?
Yeah.
So Ken's doing sign language.
Yeah. He's trying.
All right. So basically, you fire this thing up. It becomes its own hotspot. You connect to it with either laptop or portable mobile devices, what have you, right?
Phones, laptops, tablets.
You have to have the app if you're going to try to,
Sure.
connect to this with the phone and do stuff. So once you're connected to it, you can then put this on your network or on your MiFi or whatever you have while you're traveling or hotel Wi-Fi or whatever, right? And then so now everybody's connected to this guy so they can stream video and music and look at photos that are stored on this.
Look at photos.
Photos, yes, that are on this.
Maybe some leaked images.
You should also go in and set your security settings once you've purchased this so that people do not acquire your photos and leak them. Yeah. So once you do that, it acts like a pass-through for internet while being able to access all the stuff on this.
Slows
right?
down your internet a little bit, probably.
Slows down your internet because then you're limited by this radio.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this radio can still do like 10 megabytes a second because it's 2x2.
Sure.
So, it's decent speed, right? It's enough to handle 4 simultaneous HD streams, which Western Digital claims this will do for 6 hours. We're going to test that tomorrow since it's been charging.
Okay.
And I'll put some video on a loop tomorrow morning and we'll see.
We're just going to take
right?
4 computers and make them watch crappy video all day.
Just over and over and over again and see how long it goes.
Leaked video footage.
Yeah. It does have some flash memory on the PCB inside.
Okay, what's it
So that acts like a read-ahead cache. So if you're streaming stuff, the hard drive spins up. It does like the old iPod thing. Remember the hard drive iPod did
I'm sorry,
that?
the I what?
Yeah, iPod.
The
remember?
what pod?
It's,
The what? The what? The what?
no, the
The
iPod.
Zune.
Oh, the Zoom.
Back when there was a thing with the hard drive.
There was a hard drive
to
Zoom.
play-
I had the brown one.
Yes.
Right.
Did that spin down the hard drive when it
I
was?
don't know. It was a long time ago.
I like how you seriously talk about the Zune like it was a well-known thing, but not
Everybody
the iPod.
knows what the Zoom is.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you won't stop talking about it.
It's a love my Zoom.
So the other cool thing on here is, so say you're traveling and you were driving out to wherever and you had your kids in the car and they're all streaming movies off of this guy that you loaded to it before the trip. You could load stuff onto it quickly because it has USB 3, and if you connect that straight to a computer, you can transfer over 100 megabytes a second. It's basically just the hard drive speed,
Sure.
right? So you could fill it up pretty quick. Then you disconnect it. You're streaming, the kids are watching videos and stuff while you're in your minivan or whatever, doing your Mr. Mom thing, right? To get to wherever
All
you're
the
going.
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you get to your destination and now you're on vacation, right? You're going to take a bunch of photos and you don't want to be that person that had an SD card fail on them and then they lost like half of their photos from their
I don't
want
want to be that person.
Right? So there is an SD card slot built into this guy.
That's pretty cool. That's my favorite feature of it, actually.
And there's 2 different modes. You can configure them through the app, or if you connect to it with a computer, like you can actually tell it what you want it to do. It can either copy, which acts like a one-way sync, so you can keep, like, every so often you can take your SD card if you have enough
if you
SD
took
card
30
capacity.
more pictures, it'll just copy.
Yeah,
30
I only
more
took 30 more pictures. You plug it back in. You tell it to sync again, or pull the pictures off, or you can just tell it to move them, and it'll just move them onto this drive and clear the card off if you don't have enough card storage.
I don't like that idea.
Well, if you don't have enough card storage, for
I
the
get
trip,
you.
right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's cool. You could do that on the go. Like, you don't even have to hook it up to anything to do it, right? Like, you could just hit like the Wi-Fi button. I think you tap it, and then one of these lights blinks while the copy's going on, and then it just goes back to normal once it's done.
Cool. Yeah.
Pull the card back out. Go back to taking pictures, right?
And inside this, if we look at the pictures in the article, it's a 2.5-inch hard drive.
It's a 2.5-inch AV rated hard drive, which is supposed to handle like simultaneous streams, low power. That's what its claim to fame is.
Okay, it's got a 3,400 milliamp hour battery.
Yep.
And then it's got the SATA controller there. I see their
SATA
flash.
controller. It's flash memories on the top.
Oh, flash memory's up here.
Yep.
This is the memory, the RAM.
Hynix
And you've
flash,
got
a little bit of RAM.
Wi-Fi controller and stuff. And some staples.
And clips to hold the hard drive in. Yeah. But it's pretty it's pretty rugged-ish kind of. The hard drive is rubber.
What do you feel about the
mounted.
mobile apps? Like, do you think that access method is good?
Well, I mean, I like it that it's like, okay, so the app on iOS, as I was looking at it today, it basically acts just like you're streaming anything else. Like, right, you can start playing some music through that, and then you can exit the app just like you're playing Pandora, right?
Okay.
The music will keep playing in the background, right? You can play videos that are on this, like just through their native app. So
The app, you're using the app's video player to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, all that works. You can flip through pictures, so be careful what you're taking pictures of if you plan on dumping them onto this, because then your kids are going to be able to see the pictures that you just dumped onto this.
If you know
Just
what he's saying.
letting you know. So, yeah. So I mean, pretty good.
So has my iCloud been hacked with this?
No, but the initials JL are inscribed on that particular model.
Yeah,
This is my favorite one now.
yeah. So I mean, pretty nifty device.
How much is it?
So I don't have that page open.
Oh, I can look.
2 terabytes was like 220.
2
1
terabytes is 120. 1 terabyte is 180.
Yep.
And 500 gig is 130.
Yep.
So you go from 180 for 1 terabyte up to 220 for 2 terabytes.
Yeah, the spread is not very big of a price spread.
130, 180, 220. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're paying for all the rest of the stuff in this, and then the hard drive cost is really not that much in addition.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So my suggestion is, like, if you're thinking about the 1 terabyte model, realize it's $40 more to get to double it.
I like the cost per gigabyte metrics there of 26 cents per gig, 18 cents per gig, and then 11 cents per gig.
Yeah. So it's definitely gets you more bang for your buck as you go for the more capacity.
Looks like on our screen here we lost us a Josh.
But I'm back.
Oh, and he's
Whoa,
so
and he's
loud.
loud.
So sorry.
So loud. Quick. Adjust me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And
There
what happened to
you
your
go.
video
that's
too?
better. Oh.
Do we not have your video?
Do you want video?
Oh, wait. Hang on. Let me.
You've never done this before.
He's got to turn. He's got to turn the handle.
No, I can't reacquire
Ooh,
video.
Juicy fruit.
Juicy fruit.
This is the best
awesome.
episode of the show.
I have turned
So yeah,
off
I mean,
video.
cool little device thing for traveling.
Yeah,
I can see his
good.
preview.
I like.
Yeah, well, why
I
don't you
think-
just
The SD
call
card
me
thing is, like,
back,
the best
Ken?
thing. Oh, it's,
Yeah, we'll call you back, Josh.
Call him back.
I think my favorite feature is the SD card part
Yeah.
of it. I hadn't seen that on any of the other ones
Yeah,
yet.
I mean, I know people that do photography, and then I've heard horror stories about, like, they.
And we're gonna do a
their
battery
pictures.
test in terms of
Yep.
seeing if it actually lasts what they're saying.
Yeah, we'll just have
The
4
6-hour streaming
We'll just have
video.
4 things streamed from it, tomorrow.
Yeah,
and we'll see how long.
we
it
have
goes.
some computers around here we can.
But Western Digital claims it goes for 6 hours. I mean, I don't see them being that far off. It seems like a pretty beefy battery.
Josh, you still here?
I am.
Okay.
Am I really?
No,
Wow.
Ken's doing his balancing act right now.
Can
so you're
do
fine.
your balancing act like you know how.
All right, let's move on.
You know
We've had-
what we're talking about? Me doing balancing act. I went to a Russian site. I didn't download any viruses that I knew of. But the 285 is slower in Luxmark than the 280 by a significant margin.
Your image
like
is frozen
11%.
too, so that's amazing.
Awesome.
You're winning.
I'm going to get out of that Russian site.
You should stop being at that Russian website. Maybe that'll fix everything. So let's
Stat.
on the day of the Haswell-E and X99 launch, this will be a real quick mention. We did a live stream that has become the video on our YouTube channel about Haswell and Haswell-E. But we also did part of that was an interview with Intel's Matt Dunford, who has been around forever at Intel and I think in the media actually before that.
Came over on the Arc. Yeah.
And we did an interview with him. We talked a lot about some interesting stuff. His title is Principal Evangelist. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it here. There's Matt.
Doesn't that make you feel more comfortable about what they're doing to you if he's the principal evangelist?
Maybe a little. Probably not though.
Take it on faith. We're better.
It's actually a pretty good interview. I'd encourage you guys to check it out. We talk about like why DDR4 now, why quad channel, why the differentiation with PCI Express lanes and whatnot. So check that out if you haven't done so. You can either get it, like I said, it's embedded in our Haswell-E review, or you can go to youtube.com/PCPer for more of that. I had this in here in the rundown, so we'll go ahead and mention it. Everybody released X99 motherboards. Look, ASUS has X99 motherboards.
Oh, hey, that X99 motherboard looks familiar.
That does look familiar. I think at the Rampage 5 Extreme coming out. X99 EWS. Oh, wait a minute. MSI has X99 motherboards. The Empower.
How does Johnny Shee
The gaming.
pronounce X99?
I don't know. Jeremy, if I were to say what is the one feature of the MSI boards that I like the most, that I find most interesting, what do you think it would be?
Well, it's probably the complete discharge button.
No.
Because they do have a brand new complete discharge button, which trumps the original discharge button and actually clears out the PCH too.
Oh
so
my
it's
lord.
actually even better than
I really hope
Crucibles.
they don't spell it like they thought they did.
Oh, it's a typographical error. That's just the font kerning doing that.
Yeah.
I think the X99S Gaming 9 is the one that has the what's that AverMedia chip on it?
Oh, the True Audio 2.
Nope. AverMedia like video encoding controller.
Oh, the streaming engine one that lets you essentially stream 1080p without any
yeah,
sort
there
of
we go.
impact on
The
your game.
X99 Gaming. Its masterpiece is Streaming Engine, featured on X99S Gaming 9 AC, which is dedicated onboard hardware streaming solution for streaming gaming activities at 1080p 60 megabit per second without impacting FPS. We could try that.
Because obviously, if you have an 8-core processor, you don't have room to encode your live stream. Obviously.
You can have the 6-core processor with only 28 lanes of PCI.
Hey, at least you've got the internet bandwidth now to handle that.
I like that picture. Save that
Of
picture.
course,
for
the nice
everything.
thing about that is that it is a $460 board.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Wow. The X99 Deluxe is like $499, isn't it, or $399? It's $400 at least. Also, Gigabyte has boards. Asrock has motherboards. They have the X99 Extreme 6, which just looks like that. They have another one as well that's like workstation based or something. This looks like more of their modest, lower cost option. But look at those gold capacitors.
You could put one of those Xeon Phis in there and it'll match nicely.
Yeah, that's true.
Almost everyone went with Nichicon capacitors this time. It's kind of nice.
Well, 140 watt TDP will do that.
Yeah.
Let's, Jeremy, what do you know about the Nighthawk X4 AC2350 router? Anything other than it looks enormous?
Oh, sure. Pick
Well,
on me for the router.
Well, hey, you know, I didn't get to hear your voice much tonight because Josh was dominating and all. And I thought this kind of looks like this looks like the head of an AT-AT a little bit. And so I thought maybe this would be worth.
Well, no, it's got a little bit of that going if they put some
Yeah.
extra ears on it. But of course, that it's the MIMO like that we're getting used to, so that everything that's coming out nowadays has 4 antennas on it.
Yeah, cool.
Now, what they're doing with this one is trying to sell their quality service. So they're calling it dynamic quality of service. And what they did was essentially give an example of somebody who's streaming YouTube on their computer and somebody who's watching Netflix on a TV at the exact same time. And so what it'll do is it'll limit the YouTube to just a little bit more than real time so that it's not buffering, and feed as much as it can to Netflix, because Netflix is not quite as kind for buffering. Of course, this is also going to play to gaming and such, but what they're really going for is their more HD video providing. So it's going to be interesting, and it's certainly going to be able to do it because it's an ARM with a Snapdragon in it, I believe. Oh, no, sorry. That's the other one.
No, this is it. It says it's a
ARM
quote,
clocked at
Snapdragon
1.4.
DNA with dual crate cores.
Yeah.
So whatever that particular things mean.
Well, you're repurposing Snapdragon for doing network commands. It's weird, but at the same time it makes sense. It's parallel.
1.4 gigahertz ARM processor. You know what? After some stuff that we'll talk about here a little bit when our hardware software picks, it's becoming more relevant that these routers have high-end processors and a lot of compute
really
capability.
Yes.
So this is
We're sort of going back to when you used to take your old PC and turn it into a router because none of the routers could do fancy stuff.
Yeah.
You could do it. Now we sort of do OpenOWRT or a couple of the other ones.
So
now we're actually getting ones released that are useful.
This will do 802.11 AC on 5 gigahertz up to 1.7 gigabits per second, 4 channels of 433 megabits. So
that's a beast.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff in there. It's got an eSATA port as well.
Yeah, it does.
It's also $280.
Wait a minute. eSATA, what's that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember.
eSATA.
No, it honestly does have an eSATA port.
I don't remember eSATA. I don't know. So that's, you guys were talking about this earlier, right? The AC 2350 versus the AC 1950 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Anything different that you noticed? 4 antennas instead of 3.
Basically.
Okay. Let's talk about, well, we got at least one more little news. No, we got 2 more news items here. Matrox has got a new video card out, and it uses an AMD GPU.
Yeah, Cape Verde.
What the hell?
So, if you want something that's got the power of about a 770, this will do it.
What's it do special? Like, why is
I got like a lot of heads and broadcast stuff in it.
Yeah.
No, it'll do the Matrox multi-head thing. Absolutely. It's just that they haven't done anything with 3D in forever.
Huh.
But at the same time, I think what they want to do is tie that into a production level AMD card. Right? So you've got a couple of those in your system, and you want a video card to run multiple monitors, which you don't want to have to bug your GPUs that are actually doing work for you at the same time.
Also, Matrox apparently sold less than 7,000 units
Something like
last
that.
quarter, rounding to
But think of the
0.0%
markup.
market share.
Think of the markup.
It's so
But
sad.
considering that they're
It's a
selling it to
small office.
stockbrokers and hospitals, there probably is a good markup.
Josh, any particularly strong memories or that are affected by the fact that Matrox is using an AMD chip now?
You know what? It actually reminds me of Number 9. Do you remember that video card company back in the early 90s?
Can't say that I did.
They didn't ever really develop. They didn't develop many of their own chips. They used some others, but they developed the drivers, interesting boards, and extra features that were not initially designed into those chips. So Number 9, I guess Matrox is turning into them. But you don't know Number 9 anymore because
No, but it sounded like a good story, so I'll believe you.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
Yeah,
Nobody
good
knows
story.
Matrox anymore either.
All right, let's go on to our last story here. The Radeon R9 295X2, which is the dual Hawaii video card, self-contained water-cooled GPU. No, 2 GPUs. It's a dual GPU card. Is selling currently now in a couple of places on a couple of SKUs for $999. How much, Josh?
$999.
Thank you. Which is a 50%. No. Yes. A 33% drop from $14.99 to $9.99. And you can there's 2 models available on Newegg, apparently. A
same
gigabyte.
card?
It's the exact same card.
Oh,
What do you mean? Same card as what?
no, just like as what it was before. It's not like a new anything different.
Nope,
cheaper,
it's the
nothing.
same exact thing. Like they're all identical looking, even though they're sold by all different companies.
They just knocked.
They just took $500 off of it off, and plus you get 3 free games with it as well.
Everything must go.
Everything must go. It's a pretty. That's a hell of a deal. It really is, right? Like the Titan Z is still $3,000.
Yeah, that totally
Right.
needs to. That totally needs to get like $1,000.
At this point, I don't
price.
think Nvidia is willing to sacrifice kind of
I don't think
their
they were
spirit
at the entire
to
time.
sell more.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're not interested. Yeah, still $29.99. Like you can get that card cheaper than that if you buy it through those resellers we talked about last week, like the 4K under 4K bundles and whatnot.
Yep.
But at least XFX, and I think Gigabyte has 295 X2s for $9.99 on Newegg. Amazon prices, we'll probably see them there tomorrow. I will say when I was at Micro Center buying that 5820K, that in the expensive graphics card section where it's all locked up, there was a Gigabyte 295 X2 that had a giant yellow clearance sticker on it. But it didn't have a price on the sticker. It just said clearance item. And so maybe it was selling for $9.99 already. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting nonetheless. So is AMD doing this because they have so much inventory that they desperately need to get rid of? Probably. Is AMD doing this just to stick it to NVIDIA one last time before new NVIDIA GPUs or new AMD GPUs start to filter out? Yeah, probably.
Somebody in the chat saw a Titan Z for 1830.
I would love to see that link.
That'd be
I mean,
nice.
if it was a new one, not a used one or something.
Papa Dragon link.
Because an enthusiast with $1,000 is probably going to be more tempted to buy something right now that's available than something in 3 weeks. So, hey, let's get those enthusiast dollars now
Sure. I mean,
before they take it.
even taking into account like all that, like this is less than the price of two 290Xs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. I mean, this is in my opinion how these should be built anyway. But I mean, I think it's fair that if these were selling really well, AMD wouldn't feel the need to cut $500 off the price tag. They're probably not selling really great. I don't think the Titan Zs are selling any better necessarily. I think both companies overestimated the market for $1,500 to $3,000 video cards. So they're selling it at less for probably as little as they can and still making any kind of money on it or saving any kind of face for, you can't make it $7.99, right? That would be crazy. Do it. Do it. So if you're interested in one of these cards, or maybe two of them, now you can pick up two for $2,000. Only $500 more than you were going to get one before
Or
last
3
week.
for the price of a Titan Z.
Yeah, but you can't use 3.
Oh.
You can only do 4 GPU.
So you're forced to still be cheaper than Titan Z.
You are being forced to be cheaper
Yes.
than Titan Z.
Okay.
So that is that. Let's get into our hardware software picks of the week. Let me where am I at here?
Yeah, you might want to get ready. Get your screenshot ready.
So we've been talking about for a while. We finally got our new internet installed this morning. Cincinnati Bell PhiOptics gigabit fiber, rated at 1,000 down, rated at 250 megabits up. So here is let me show you this screenshot first. This was like a ping test we had from earlier today, showing 491 megabits per second down, 239 megabits up. That is to a Cincinnati server. Yeah, hey, let's do that. That's a good idea. And the 491 is less than 1,000, clearly. But
True.
I think our issue is we were having problems finding anybody that could give us enough bandwidth to run that test. Because even the Cincinnati Bell internal bandwidth test only ever got up to about 430, 450, because the file that it downloads to do the speed test downloads so fast that it doesn't have time to ratchet up the bandwidth. So to fix that, we did this, which is we use Steam, right? And everybody loves Steam.
And then after the SSD buffered,
Well, no, hold on. You're ruining
it did at one
You're
point.
ruining this. We decided to download. What's a dumb game that's big like Max Payne 3? It's about 30 gigabytes. It downloaded in about 5.5 minutes.
Yep.
and we peaked at 101.1 megabytes per second, which, if you do the math, is about 800, just over 800 megabits per second. And yes, as Alan alluded
Obviously,
to, it totally ruined the surprise.
My internet is not anywhere close
Clearly
to that.
not.
As I'm
No, the other
frozen
surprise.
Go to one
in my
minute.
video.
I didn't ruin that surprise. Do it.
This busy writing to disk part here indicates that Steam was having more trouble writing to the SSD than downloading to the drive.
And for those that want to like call us out on like, well, SSDs can write faster than that. They can't write faster than that. Like very small random writes, like what Steam does,
or what network traffic would generally bring you.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
and then when that wasn't happening, the other bottleneck that we found is that the router itself.
oh yeah, our router is kind of the bottleneck. He looked up.
It's
some
an
benchmarks
AC66U.
Yeah, it's the ASUS AC66U that
Yeah.
on Small Net Builder they tested, and the throughput internally of the router is limited to about 800 megabits.
Yeah.
So I think we hit our bottleneck not from Steam, but from our the router
Yep.
itself. So there we go. I haven't found any place yet to test our upstream. Our speed tests indicate we're getting all the bandwidth we need, but like I can't send to Amazon S3 faster than like 22 megabytes per second.
Yeah.
Well, 20 megabytes is about 160 megabits. So.
The issue is just single link speed, right? Steam, you get faster speed because it's multiple, like it's a multiple link download.
Yeah, I guess. I just need to have somebody with a gigabit connection try to download, like if we set up an FTP server with like one 15 gig file and have them do like a multi-link FTP and try to draw as much as they can and see how much they get from
15
us.
gig and see how many seconds it takes.
Yeah. So we had a lot of fun with that throughout the day. So we'll keep you apprised as how it goes if we have any other issues. But clearly it works. And I downloaded. What did I download? So you can see on this list, I downloaded Batman Origins, Arkham Origins, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, and Max Payne 3 just because I wanted to see, and then I deleted it all. And then I'll download it again later. Like, we should have just deleted Titanfall and re-downloaded Titanfall, because that's 50 gigs.
Yeah, just to taunt everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, clearly.
Taunt.
Clearly. Yeah, we were able to grab 30 gigabytes in under 5 minutes or so.
We should just tweet out, Titanfall download times every time we retry it.
Yeah, people would love it.
Yep, it was 7 minutes
All new
this time.
benchmark. Let's script it.
Yep.
Gotta use
Yeah.
that bandwidth somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got up next here? I don't have anything queued up, but it looks like Jeremy is our next contestant.
Yeah, and this is not going to need anywhere near the bandwidth that you have.
Well, that's
This
good.
is just the Wicked Sense, which is a little tiny software dev kit. Well, it's more of a hardware dev kit for playing with the Internet of Things. So yeah, all it is a little Bluetooth that's going to do power and communication. It's got a gyroscope on it, an accelerometer, an e-compass, which are always wonderfully accurate, motion activation, map rotation, barometer, and humidity and temperature sensors. So it is an Internet of Things sensor. You could hook this up, create your own baby monitor. You could make sure that your fridge was at the exact right temperature and would send a
Notify you
message.
if it's different. Huh.
Or hell, you needed to send a message to something to try and pump up the amount of energy going to it. Like
or
this
some
is sort of
small
like a little
child is
dev kit for
sitting
anyone
there
who wants to
and
play.
looking-
Sorry?
Damn it. I'm sorry, it warned you when some small child is opening up the refrigerator and looking vacantly into it while all the cold air escapes for the next 10 minutes.
It will then play the air horn that you've set strategically above the fridge.
Oh, gosh.
And it's $20. It'll work with iOS and Android, so programming it is going to be dirt cheap and easy. And for $20, it just gives you something to play with and get in on the Internet of Things because, hell, as we all know, the first person to invent the dumb thing makes a crap load of money once they sell it.
Oh, damn it.
$20.
Just clicked
Start
a link.
playing.
I just clicked a link from that article about a Home Depot confirms payment data breach investigation.
Yeah, they
Son
had
of a
quite a few.
Bitch. If necessary,
So
we'll
that
offer
hot
its
tub
customers
is looking
credit
much
check
better for you, Ryan.
Yeah,
I didn't
thankfully
buy
I
it
shopped
from
at a Rona
Home
last
Depot,
time.
but I buy a lot of crap at Home
okay.
Depot. So if there's any credit card that's going to be in there multiple times, that's mine.
And Ryan, you should also be able to hook this up to something to blast noise at your pups.
Ooh, I like the idea.
Or-
Yeah. Good point.
I still think the water gun's the better way to go.
Water cannon.
Yeah.
Water cannon. Thank you. All right.
T-shirt cannon.
T-shirt cannons won't work. We have to, yeah. Well, it depends how many times you can load it. Josh, what do you got?
Hey, I'm surprised Ken doesn't put up a picture of My Little Pony since I'm just frozen. Lord love D-Link and their routers or something.
Okay.
But anyway, you know what? I heard this video card's pretty good and interesting. And if you like the idea of being able to use True Audio XDMA and other things, and the R9 285 is not a bad card to have. Only 2 gigs of frame buffer, which I'm not entirely pleased about. I wish they would have 4. But, you can crossfire these things more adequately than you could previous things, except, of course, doom. The MP3 people are going to be so confused by that song. But anyway, I like it. I think it's worth it. Maybe you want to wait a few days to get it.
Yeah, I
And wait
would
till it
wait a
goes
few
out of-
days. Wait for that stock stuff to kind of return to where it should be. Because like it's listed as $259 on Amazon, like from Amazon, but like ships in 3 to 4 weeks. I think that will be significantly less than that. So worth keeping in mind. I don't think it's a bad card.
I know you don't think it's a bad
I
card.
just don't think it's an amazing.
It's just not a
card.
great card.
It's not a great card.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, Alan, what do you got?
Okay.
Ken showed me this today. I think it's pretty sweet. Yeah.
I'm thoroughly confused.
Pull your pants up,
So
Ken.
say you're getting, Ken caught me like going through random emails. I'm going through this thing of like, unsubscribe.
I did no such thing.
That's from Texas. That junk. I don't want
I
that
think we've already
anymore.
done this,
You know,
but go
that kind of
ahead.
thing. Have we? I don't know.
I think I did it because I did it on my Gmail.
You might have done it a long time
Go
ago
ahead.
there for a pick of the week though. But unroll.me. So you go there, you point it at your Gmail account. You give
To be
it
fair, you
access
have to give it access to.
You have to give it
Gmail,
access
which I
to
was
look
a
through
little
your
bit,
Gmail.
about,
But all they're looking for is they have a database of all these
Jennifer
like
Lawrence photos.
no, not that. They have a database of all these things that are subscription-based lists or whatever, and this thing just goes through everything in your email and just like gives you a nice, neat list of okay, here's every thing that you have been subscribed to or that you're getting ads from or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then on that page that shows all those results, you can just go through and just pick like unsubscribe, just
Yeah.
one click.
Yeah, I went
And
through
then,
this.
and then when you submit it, when you submit that part of it, like it just unsubscribes you from that stuff that you want to unsubscribe. And then there's another
Unsubscribes
option.
you to everything else that you didn't check.
Well, no, the other option is you can roll up stuff, what they call roll up.
You can roll up a lot of stuff.
So you can take, it's kind of like a what they used to be called when you're on a mailing list and you get like a daily or weekly
Digest.
highlight digest version, right? This basically does that equivalent, right? You roll up. I want to roll up all the buy.com and this and that and whatever. I still want to see those, but I don't want
whoever gets
to.
buy.com.
I don't want to get peppered with them throughout the day. It'll roll them up into like one thing that only comes, periodically.
And then you can delete it and never read it.
Well, and that's just one email to delete, right? It's not like, you just get like. Then you could just send your roll-ups to the spam folder.
To be honest with you, I definitely did this.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being effective. I don't.
Well, I mean, I did it.
Either some of it, like, maybe it has been, and I just haven't.
Maybe you just have so much of it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But like, I still get a bunch of stuff. Maybe I need to run it through again or something.
Maybe.
But I feel like, I don't know. If I were running a buy.com list and I got this request, and there's
Rakuten.
any signature that, hey, this is unroll.me doing this and not the end user, I would go out. You
I
don't
guess.
count and
Probably
just
not
keep
a
sending
signature.
it. Well,
They probably just click the link.
maybe.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. If there is
Yeah.
any kind, I don't mean like
because they go through your email. So
but any kind of signature.
if they're
that it
pulling
indicates it's
those,
a robot
if they're
doing
pulling
it.
those out of your email, I would imagine they would link your email's unsubscribe link.
Oh, I'm sure
to
they.
that
I'm sure
button.
they do it like that. But
Yeah.
if I'm saying if there's any hint that like buy.com's mail service says, well, this is a robot doing
Yeah.
this unsubscribe.
Yeah.
We'll just kind of ignore it until the person actually.
Well,
does
we'll
it.
see. I mean, I
Yeah.
unsubscribed
Give
from
it
a
a
bunch
shot.
of stuff today that I will notice if it shows up.
Ooh, they
so-
support Outlook.com.
Because I basically unsubscribed to all the things that were local things to where I have previously lived and don't live anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm in the military,
For
move around
example,
a lot.
I get mailing lists about University of Wisconsin alumni groups.
Well,
Never been to the state of Wisconsin.
aren't you part of that alumni group though?
Not in Wisconsin.
Oh,
Come on, Badgers.
I never been, like I said, literally never been to the state of
so
Wisconsin.
you should unsubscribe from that.
I have.
Oh.
I have. And I have reported it as spam
was
several
gonna
times.
say.
in
You
emails,
got
too.
spam from University of Minnesota, University of Ohio State, OSU.
Ohio State.
Josh, you
The
just
Tosu.
shouldn't,
Yeah.
you shouldn't send video anymore. You just don't even bother. I mean,
All right, this has been a long episode, but I think we had a lot of stuff going on here. Next week will be interesting. I will be at IDF for a day or so. Alan will be at IDF for a little bit as well. But I'll make Alan come back and do the show. I won't be able to do it. I don't know where I'll be. I'll be someplace. I honestly don't know. But there will be interesting stuff to talk about from IDF. It's a very interesting IDF, actually, because there's only one keynote. There's only a keynote on Tuesday. And then like Wednesday and Thursday morning are usually keynotes, and they're not keynotes anymore.
oh,
It's very
What are
odd.
they?
It's very they're doing these things called mega sessions, which are instead of having a keynote that tries to talk about 6 topics, they're going to do a mega session that is shorter and do multiple at the same time that focus on specific subjects, right? But still like in the big room with a huge audience and like the same style of event. I don't know. It'll be a first time.
They're not going to steal your totally unique idea of having a rundown list on the side of the podcast.
Better not. They
Yeah,
better
that'd
not.
just be wrong.
They better not. All right, we're going to wrap up the show, guys. Sorry, it's been a long one. Like I said, pcper.com/podcast, pcper.com/live, pcper.com/subscribe, and go to pcper.com every day, all the time, and click all
on
of our
the ads.
stories and news items and read everything and look at all
And
the
ads. Click on the ads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't visit joshtech.com. Definitely.
Because there are
don't
no
do that.
ads on that one.
Just one beautiful
Just
ad.
one beautiful render.
All right, guys. We will see you next week. Thanks for watching. I'm Ryan Schrupp.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
and I'm Alan Malventano.
But who's the other guy?